So today's a big day. The fucking solar panels finally came from Amazon. I had ordered them in a kit from Amazon, their Renogy premium kit or whatever that I had ordered never showed up in Colorado because apparently it was back ordered. They were confused. I don't know. It never came. So I canceled that order and I reordered it as separate little things. So the 4 solar panels, the controller, the inverter, the cables, all of that I ordered separately so that it would come in time. And I ended up having to change it to show up in Minnesota because I was ready to leave Colorado and meet up with a friend in Minneapolis. So here I am at her house. The solar panels showed up today. It's raining, so I'm not going to put them on until tomorrow, but I'm really excited that I'm going to get electricity in the van before I leave Minnesota, and that hopefully means that I'll have the fan, which is already in the ceiling, running and working before I get to Florida, where it's going to be, I'm expecting, pretty hot. So I'm really excited, and if you want to know what I'm doing, I'm going to try and do a better documentation, not better, but more thorough documentation than what I've found out there, because there's a lot of write-ups, and I know it's super complicated. This is actually what I'm going to be building. It looks super complicated, right? But I didn't see, and I mean, there's so many videos of people explaining it, but not showing you how they built it. So I'm going to do my best of showing you guys that, but just a little run through. I'll try to show you this. Here's the solar panels, and the electricity goes through the charge controller and down into the batteries. I don't even know if this is the right way around for you guys, but anyway, I'll make a better picture and put it up online with this video eventually. But yeah, I'm at least going to have the first half of the system, which is the batteries are already in place. They're going to be connected to the charge controller connected to the solar panels, and then the fuse box, which will power the lights, and the fan will go in. And then I'm waiting on the right inverter to show up because I sent back the first inverter that came because it was big and heavy and yet not powerful enough for the Vitamix, which is ridiculous, but I do want a Vitamix in my van. So that's going to happen. And then I already have the pieces for the volt relay switch. That's a little bit more nerve-wracking because you have to make sure you don't clear the Mercedes-Benz computer in the process of hooking it up. But I did some research and I found out that as long as I have one of those jump boxes connected to the battery of the van so that the van doesn't lose power at any point when you're connecting the volt relay switch, that we should be good. And there's, you know, with all of these things, there's a sequence that you need to attach things in order to not fuck up and not blow up the charge controller and not kill the car in the process. But I've been doing a lot of research over the last few weeks, so I feel pretty confident. Kind of wish that I had an electrician friend nearby to help me out, but it's going to be an adventure. So I'll let you guys know how it goes, and stay tuned. I've got my solar panels from Renogy, and I've been taking apart the little boxes that all the Z brackets came in. They look like this, and they go with these bad boys. I'm using a 10-inch socket wrench, or a number 10 socket wrench, sorry. These are the screws that are going to actually put it through the ceiling. And I'll show you, here's the 3 that I've done so far. Out of the 4, the bracket goes on like that. Just attaches with the screw, the bolts. They interchange screw and bolt a lot. And this is how pretty they are on the front. And that's where I'm going to put them on in a moment with my friend's ladder. So I just wanted to check in, let you know this is the stage I'm at. I'm attaching the hardware, and then I'm going to carry them up to the roof and start figuring out where they're going to get placed and how I'm going to hook all those wires together. All right, see you soon. Because we were in the middle of putting the solar on the roof. I put 2 panels up yesterday, and I'm going to put 2 more up today. I want to show you what I'm working with. I've got the panels here. I already attached the Z clamp, whatever, fittings with the hardware that they sent with it. They've already got these little cords hanging out of them. I'm using Sikaflex 291. I had butyl tape, which I used for the fan, which I haven't been using for this because I think the Sikaflex is enough. I'm using a little dustpan thing to move the metal fittings before I use Sikaflex and put the thing through the ceiling. I've got a knife to cut the plastic off of those mostly, Sharpie and a pencil to mark the holes when I'm on the roof. What I did was get up there, and of course I've got drill bits, and I'm using both my drill to make slow-mo holes in the ceiling, and I'm also using my impact driver because the arm is longer, which allows me to get into the spaces between the solar panels because I've got them pretty close together, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But I wanted to show you because I'm living in the van while I build it out, driving across the country. Let me take you over here to Karen's beautiful garden, and I used some S-hooks to put a tarp up in the house so that as I drill through the ceiling, the metal shavings are caught in that, and I didn't have to empty out the whole van to do it. So that's pretty exciting. The cords are in shambles right now because I had to move some things to get through the ceiling, but I just wanted to show you guys that as a safety feature. I've got some wood that is going to go inside the bench and behind to help keep the metal, the electrical stuff all tidy and organized. So that's that. I'm going to take you up to the roof too. And I'll show you the little grommets I'm using. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, so there's the two solar panels that are attached already. The giant Y connectors that had 4 things going into 2 things. So I can have all 4 solar panels go into 2 wires and go down the ceiling. That is called parallel, wiring them in parallel. And here are the things I'm using to put them through the ceiling. So, oops. Okay, so I'm ruining this bag right now. I should let you see what I'm doing. Come here, little guy. Alright, so machine screws and these little bad boys, which are called expansion nuts or well nuts or brass expansion nuts. So what I'm doing essentially is drilling a hole through the ceiling with the bit. I'm doing a guiding hole because I'm learning my lessons as we go. This is exactly the same size around as this. So once I've got a hole in the ceiling, I put this bad boy down in. And what's cool about these is there's threading. You can see the threading right in the top of it. And when I put the machine screw in, the threading is at the bottom. And what happens is the screw grabs the threading and pulls up as the screw is being drilled down. And so it bends this rubber and creates a rubber seal up under the ceiling, under the piece of metal that the roof is on. So then at the top it just looks like a screw. And so what I did was, when I fit these into the holes, I was just turning them and putting Sikaflex 291, which is that caulking right there that you see, and just making a little circle, like a little skirt around it, and then pushing it into the hole. And then when I would do the screw part, I would see the Sikaflex, coming up and squeezing out around each of the screws, which you can probably see a little bit there. So what I'm going to go back through and do once we're all done is cover all those screws with Sikaflex. I'm using Sikaflex 291 because I read a bunch of forums that that's the one to use. The other Sikaflexes and the other caulks are not as good. This is the same stuff that I used right around the edge of the fan, which has been totally legit. There was ridiculous rainstorms here when I got to Minnesota, and no problems, no water in the van. So that's the gist of it. I'm going to get these other 2 bad boys on there. You might be wondering why I staggered them like that. There's all this ribbing on the roof, and I'm trying to make it so that the cord connects all 4 of them, and at the same time, because you'll see those arms aren't that long, and it has to go all the way to the other, to the far end of the solar panel, and then I have to avoid the ribbing inside the roof which is like slightly different widths apart than the solar panels are. So I came up here, moved them around, drew a bunch of extra dots that I didn't end up using, and just kept playing with it until it was right. And once I got it pretty much right, then I took one solar panel down. I was actually dancing around with 3 solar panels up here, trying to maneuver them. They're not that lightweight. So that's it. All right, I figured I'd show you guys the hot mess I'm working with right now. Beautiful hot mess. So I've been designing this little board to hold all the components. This is the fuse box that's gonna do the lights and the fan and other things like that. This little guy is gonna go to the volt relay switch, which is connecting these back batteries to the alternator and the starter battery of the engine. That's not gonna get hooked up yet because I need sort of a power bypass to take care of the engine while I connect all this stuff. But at least it's got a mounting place now. Down here, this is the fuse box that does the fuse box to make sure that this little guy doesn't get too much power from the big batteries. This is the Bluetooth battery monitoring system, which you can see the link is not lit up right now, which I'm trying to troubleshoot. We've got 3 switches happening. There's one down here. This one goes to the solar, this one goes to the battery bank, and they all go to the charge controller over here, which you can see is doing some fancy light stuff, which is awesome. The green light on the right means that the batteries are connected, and the green light flashing on the left means that the solar is charging the batteries right now. So that's awesome. I just haven't seen that light up. I just got it to light up, so I figured I'd make a quick video. Underneath we've got the battery negative, which is going to a ground point. The battery positive is going to the switch with the fuse. That's a 40 amp fuse for the 40 amp charge controller. And the positive and negative of the solar. The negative is going straight to the solar panels up top, and the positive is going through another 40 amp fuse right there, and a switch. I use the big switches so that I could disconnect the solar before I disconnect the battery. Anytime you want to mess with your system, you want to disconnect the power, but you never want to have the solar connected to the charge controller without the batteries connected also, because it'll blow up the charge controller. So we haven't blown up so far, which is amazing. I've got some components coming off of the batteries. You can see they're wired in parallel, which means that they're wired to each other first. And then from one battery, I went negative to the ground, and from the other battery is all the things coming off the positive. So they're basically acting as one big battery when they're in a system like this. So that's basically it. I just wanted to show you guys where I was at. I know it looks like a mess. I'm going to clean it up and finish connecting that last switch, which is going to be to the inverter with a giant fuse. The inverter I sent back because I wanted to get a bigger one. And then behind this little panel is where all the ground wires are connected to the vehicle chassis. So that's where I'm at. Just wanted to let you guys know. Hey, thanks for watching. Come back next week and see more about the electrical system in this van and how I installed the isolator or volt relay switch. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.